Budget Committee is reconvened. We are ready at this point in time to hear from our next set of presenters, and they represent tourism and cultural affairs in Clackamas County. So Danielle?
Wait, I need to first make a statement.
Yes, sir?
For caution's sake, I am married to Danielle Cowan, the Director of Tourism, at least until Friday.
Danielle, I'm sorry if this is news to you. No, it's my understanding that.
I meant, yeah, she's a director until Friday. I didn't even get that joke. The other thing is that I want to clarify is that we hired an outside lawyer to talk about who controls the budget of tourism. The outside lawyer told us the tourism board does. So our job is only to confirm.
With substantial deference.
Substantial deference, unless they do not follow the rules, those rules being in statute. So just want to be clear on that because, I had to address this issue. And it was determined outside of this room that that is true. So just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Do we have a PowerPoint for this presentation? Is it making its way around somewhere?
It's right here in my hand.
Oh, thank you, Mr.
Sorry, I'm supposed to pass it on.
Yes, thank you. And Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Savas. But
Thank you, Chair
Fisher.
Parks. I just want to piggyback on Chair Bernard declaring his potential conflict by being married to Danielle Cowan for one more day. I have always at these meetings stated my potential conflict because my husband, Kirk Mauser, was on the board of the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, was very involved in the juvenile project, which you are pretty much all familiar with. Kirk no longer has any official involvement other than being a resident of Clackamas County, but just for appearance sake, I just want to state that for the record. So, thanks.
And Commissioner Savas?
I just have to just state, I mean, I don't think it's, I don't want to get into an argument, and we have legal counsel in the back of the room, but I just want to say that my interpretation of that exercise with Mr. Berman was that that's not the case, and we don't have the benefit of Mr. Krupp here, who was part of that discussion in great detail, but there is no exception of state budget law.
So
State budget law, read it. If you find me an exception. State budget law allows the budget committee members access to questions, answers, and the ability to adjust the budget. There is no exception.
And
If so, show me.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Well, I would just say let's let the tourism department present its budget, and if we have questions, we can address them when they come. I just want to clarify. So Danielle is retiring this Friday, May 31st, which is why Jim said what he said. So congratulations, Danielle. Thank you for your service. And she'll stay on as an interim director June 1st until a permanent director is hired. So thank you, Danielle.
Oh, very good. And because of the earlier discussion, I just want to touch base, and Mr. Madker is going to remain in the room so that in case there are any questions that need a legal answer, he'd be able to respond to that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Danielle.
Thank you. I'm exhausted. I haven't said a word yet. But Danielle Cowan, I am the executive director for another little bit for Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs, branded as Oregon's Mount Hood Territory. And I would like to introduce those on either side of me. Jody Carson is the chair of the Tourism Development Council and is here to welcome and to address questions that you may have. Kirsten Ryan on my left is the executive director for Arts and Culture. So we'll get into the details of that momentarily, but I wanted to turn it over to Jody if she wanted to make any comment before we get rolling.
Okay, and I apologize that I neglected to mention to you our time frames. So on our agenda today, we have about a half an hour scheduled for this entire presentation, but we try to leave half of that time for questions from the budget committee. So you have about 15 minutes, for your overall presentation.
We'll do our
Thank you.
best. Sure.
As Danielle mentioned, I'm Jody Carson. I'm the chair of the Tourism Development Council for the Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs. And I just want to thank you all for allowing us to present our budget to you today. I think one of the things that I want to really state that this budget is funded through the Transient Room Tax. So that money is coming, and that's where the money for this budget comes. The Tourism Development Council has approved this budget, and it is in line with the master plan, the 5-year strategic plan, and the annual work plan. And if you want to see the annual work plan, which really outlines all the initiatives that we will be undertaking in the coming year and has been also approved by the TDC, we did bring some copies with us, so if you'd like to have that more detail of the work plan, that is available. And I'll let Danielle go ahead and describe what we're doing.
And if I may, too, one more thing. So many of us, myself included, speaking acronyms all the time. Some of our listening audience may not know what some of those mean. I heard you, Ms. Carson, said TDC. So when you use an acronym like that, just explain to the general public, what that is. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll get going and buzz through this. And hopefully you can read those. You have them in front of you. But we are branded as Mount Hood Territory, which we've discussed. We are recognized as the county's destination marketing organization, and that is actually changing to the management organization. That's happening throughout the nation and in Oregon as well, because we don't do as much marketing these days as we do management of our organizations. We were created by a voter-approved initiative in 1991, and we have operated under this ordinance for that long. They voted in a 6% tax that is charged to overnight lodging properties, which could be anything like even a campground or a hotel room, and that is where we get our collections. 98% of that goes to tourism or to the county fair, and 2% goes for the administration of the funds that the finance department does. We have a 9-member board, Tourism Development Council. We fondly call them the TDC, and they are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. They are appointed for the 3-year terms, and Jody now sits as chair. We are guided by a master plan that's required in the ordinance, and the County Board of County Commissioners approves that, and we are in the 2nd year of a 5-year strategic plan that we also discussed. Then finally, as Jody mentioned, we also have the business plan for the annual one. If you'd like to look at it, this is actually for this year. We're currently in 18-19, and after this, we'll be completing the 19-20, and we'll be willing and able to share those at that point. So our mission and vision hasn't really changed over the years. We want to enhance the quality of life for residents by optimizing the economic impacts of tourism and the industry derived from the transient room tax. And we want to serve as a leading force to grow and sustain tourism in the county through effective marketing and management and asset development strategies, and by building strong partnerships in business organizations and with other government entities and citizens. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. I don't have to go, you have had this, but we work in partnership. We have principles, guiding principles that are within our master plan. And most of that is just to be good stewards of the resources and to work with our partners. This last year I mentioned that we added sustainability. We've been doing a major initiative regarding sustainability, and more of that will be coming forward. We're also working with other staff here in the county on those efforts. So to the budget. Sorry, I'm going to take a quick sip here. Now you can see that our taxes have increased over the years. Our actuals and our budget sometimes look a little bit different, and the reason for that is that we have a base amount that we get from the transient room tax, and then because we have done fairly well over the years, we tend to have more collections than we had anticipated. So at the end of the year, we get our actuals, and the line goes up. So we don't budget to those each year because we don't know what the effects will be year to year. So we budget to the base budget, and then as new monies come in, we target those for projects that have been identified by the board to pursue if more funds are available. So that explains that. Our budget is primarily of transient room tax. We do get some interest. We also get some money from Travel Oregon for running our regional tourism cooperative program, and that is a statewide program. We serve as the fiscal agent for the Hood Gorge region, and we work in 2 other regions as well. So there's some monies in there to offset some of the work that we do, and those come from the state TRT funds, transient room tax. The bottom line that you're seeing there, we'll talk about in a few minutes, the $299, $359, that is actually what it does come from the general fund from this body, and it goes to our arts and cultural work. So I did talk about some earlier conversation by the board already about the source of these funds. They're transient room taxes. They have very strict limitations about how they can be expended. And our ordinance even goes a little bit further and defines even more of what the work can be done, what work can be done with those monies. We do not get, other than for the arts and cultural work, we don't have any general fund money, and the Tourism Development Council has approved the budget based on the funds that we have, and there are not reductions at this time. What we'll be looking to at the future is how to program monies should they come in above our projections. And then, as I mentioned, the arts and cultural organization do get their money from that, and the amounts for the reduction would be very small. We have not been asked as an organization to target those cuts at this time, but certainly I think if that is the desire, that would be done as well. So what do we get what do you get for the money? Well, we don't operate under the performance Clackamas system that you might be familiar with. Our work has been long guided by the master plan and a lot of other variables that are not common to the kind of the county structure. We use industry mechanisms and data. I'm going to read my stuff. We have our 5-year strategic plan that we mentioned. We also have the annual business plan that reports performance. And we capture our performances in monthly, daily, weekly reports of all varieties and shapes, because we are heavily engaged in social media and other kinds of opportunities that allow for different kinds of measurement and more rapid measurement. We also have a monthly meeting with our board, and our board reviews our monthly business statements and accomplishments and performance, and we have discussions about that. I believe that our performance is very high, particularly for the industry and for Oregon, so it hasn't tended to be an issue for our board, but certainly we are willing to share whatever this board would like our committee would like to see. One of the biggest measures we use is how is the transient room tax going? You can see for the last 10 years, it's been on a pretty strong uptick, which we like. One of the things I like to point out is this work has been done without any additional rooms being added. We don't have new hotels. None have come on board since I've been in this position, which is 10 years. But this is more economy, more marketing, more capacity that you're seeing on the screen there. And we're very proud of that. We're very proud of all the partners that have worked so hard to make it happen. We obviously don't do that work, they do, as far as bringing in the overnight guests. So we appreciate that. I always like to point out, though, you never know how these will be affected. For instance, Southern Oregon, with their fires, they lost a tremendous amount of money. They had to close down a number of their Shakespearean plays. And this happens. It happened in the Gorge when the fire hit. So my staff shudder when I say it, but we're one fire away from disaster for our budget. So we never know how things can go. So we take it as it comes, and we're grateful for it, but we can't budget always for increasing amounts. And that's not our goal. Optimizing is our goal, not maximizing. So another one is that we use for our KPI, or key performance measure, are what are visitors spending? Again, I think this is a very dramatic slide that shows just what's happened over the years. And these are from outside resources, Dean Runyon and others who are the industry leads on how to measure for these kinds of performances across probably across the globe, but at least across the states. And so we've gone up to over 621 million being expended by visitors to our area in 2018. And so in a nutshell, that's pretty much what I had to offer for your consideration. And the other program that I want to turn it over for Kirsten to have an opportunity to speak is about the arts and culture. I just want to introduce the fact, and most of you are aware, that arts and culture has been a part of the partnership from Clackamas County for 25 years. They are the mechanism that receives state and regional grant monies that they then, on behalf of the county, divide up and issue to the different programs and applications and others who receive these funds. They also go out in the communities and they work directly with arts and culture and heritage organizations to help them develop. And this has been the partnership. They are the designated receiver of many funds, and I'll turn it over to Kirsten to talk a little bit more.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you to each of you. It is just a privilege to be here. And I know many of you at the table and a few of you I don't, so thank you.
Kirsten, I'm sorry, we can't, yeah, is the microphone on? And you probably need to pull it a little closer.
How's that?
Yeah,
Is that better?
that is. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all. As you all know, the Arts Alliance just underwent the biggest transition in its 25-year history, with its founding director, Cheryl Snow, retiring. And here I am, and it's been about 5 months. And I would just like to speak a little bit specifically. Maybe I can have that. Thank you. So what I have found in my sort of hunting and gathering these first 5 months and assessing is that a lot of people are familiar with a portion of what we do, but not all of it. Some of the more visible aspects, like even in these county buildings, the artwork on the walls, we exist, as Danielle said, to give opportunities and resources to people. But we really see ourselves as a service organization. Using those artists as an example, we don't charge. We just want to provide opportunities for them. All of their work is for sale. Close to $20,000 worth of artwork has been sold over the years. We don't take a cut of that. We really want to nurture and build up the community from individual artists on up through institutions. We partner with different school districts. We just last week wrapped up an after-school at-risk youth program with Estacada. A month before that was Canby. And we work a lot with social service agencies. As Sonia mentioned, we've had a partnership with the juvenile department each summer. That was Youth Theater for Change. This year we transitioned it to Youth Stories for Change. It will be more filmmaking. We tried to be responsive and nimble to what the juvenile department wanted in terms of some of the changes. And I wanted to read a few things just sort of to share from voices other than mine. But one of a program we started last year, which is what last year's funding helped us provide, was the Ask the Question project. ATQ is about suicide awareness and suicide prevention, and it has just taken wing. And people are clamoring for this because, unfortunately, there's a big need. And just last week, our partner with that is Clackamas Behavioral Health, and they awarded us a Hero Award, and that is given to partners in the region that help them save lives, and they gave that to us. So that was a real honor, and that's the kind of thing that we kind of do sometimes more visibly than others, and sometimes it's just behind the scenes. Something that I'm looking forward to for this coming year, which is where, if we were able to be funded again, is work. I just got an email with Adam Peterson from also from Behavioral Health, but they're unveiling a project with the Children's Center. Their goal is by within this next year, work on freeing Clackamas County from child abuse and neglect. And he just said, my colleague at Behavioral Health speaks very highly of you and the work of the Alliance and the Ask the Question project. We are at the point now where we're beginning to partner with our Clackamas County community, and there are some very natural connection points between the work the Arts Alliance is doing and how the Children's Center is looking to engage our community to participate in this event. I believe that this work has the same potential to empower and inspire in the same way the Ask the Question project did and continues to do. This is just a snippet I got last week that I wanted to share because there's a humanistic side to what we do, and about half of our budget historically has come from county funds. The rest we have gotten largely through grants. As you know, that funding climate has changed a lot. Some of the major granting partners like Collins Foundation, Meyer, and Murdoch have completely shifted their focus. Collins only gives grants now focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, not the arts focus they used to have. So one of my goals coming in has been to rebuild the budget, and I hired an outside independent CPA, and we rebuilt it dollar by dollar so that we can look at where our strengths are and how we can be responsive to changes and developing like a donor program so we can develop more earned income. So I just wanted to give you a little overview. Yes. Oh yeah. RAC. Also, I think Jeff Hawthorne was going to be here. He is. He can probably speak more eloquently than I about RAC's role in our partnership over the years. There. Alexa.
Well, I don't know that we're prepared to have him unless he has a moment, and maybe we can change seats. But just for your information, about $100,000 of what you give for the Arts and Culture Alliance goes to the Regional Arts and Culture Alliance, from which we get a very large return. And I would like, I'm not a purveyor of that particular program, so I don't have the details myself. And I don't know if you have anything that you can share.
You want to help us here?
If that's helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, just real quick,
Okay,
so
yep.
they can get the full program. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, we want to keep the
Technical adjustments.
timeframes in mind, so maybe, not more than 2 minutes. Can you do that?
Less than 2 minutes, for sure. My name is Jeff Hawthorne. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the Regional Arts and Culture Council. We serve Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County. So the investment of yours that comes to RAC is intended for us to leverage those funds with other dollars that we receive from the state of Oregon, from Metro, from the NEA, and private donors. And we return that investment back to artists and arts organizations in Clackamas County by a ratio of about, the return on investment is 395%. So we return to artists and organizations in Clackamas County 395% of what we get from you in that $100,000. And just to be clear, the grants that we are awarding are to arts organizations that serve the region, so regional assets like Lakewood Theater, which makes sense for us to take some money from the city of Portland to invest in that asset, rather than you just giving the money directly to Lakewood, and also to artists and arts organizations whose project and audiences cross county lines. And then the Right Brain Initiative is a program that complements some of the arts education work that you just heard about. Our role is actually in arts integration, which is to teach K-5 teachers in North Clackamas School District and some others in the county how to use theater, music, dance to teach concepts of history, math, science, and other standard curriculum subjects. And so we've been able to demonstrate that student test results improve as a result of that kind of arts integration.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, and Kirsten, if you could move back up to the table too, in case. So we do have a few questions. I have a couple of quick questions first. Looking at the arts and cultural affairs budget, Kirsten, are you the only staff person now in arts and cultural affairs?
I'm the only full-time staff person right now.
And
I have 3 other staff members who work part-time.
part-time permanent or part-time temporary?
Permanent.
Part-time permanent, 3 others. Okay, I noticed on the budget sheet, first one you've done, I'm sure, but that it didn't mention that. And Danielle, in tourism, are you guys still doing the community tourism grants to like cities, chambers of commerce, that kind of thing? And part of your money goes to the fairgrounds too, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely, Chair. We do have, and so because we kind of shortened all of our presentation, we offer a number of grants. We put out more than $600,000, a year in grants, $250,000 in development grants, and those are for building assets in the communities. We have another $260,000 that goes out to local communities, $20,000 per community that then they re-grant for different projects and programs within their local areas. We also have a $50,000, we call it a capital improvement grant for heritage buildings and so forth, and that's used. So we have quite a bit of money out there that we put in grants, and then we also have visitor information centers and those kinds of things that we support. And I'm sorry, I think I might have forgotten part of your question.
Well, that's, yeah.
Oh, the fair, sorry.
Yeah, the
And the
fair.
fair, before we receive our funds, that money is already transferred to the fair. Right now, it's very close to $500,000. And we have also issued other grants to the fair for some of their projects that they currently have underway, like their master plan.
And if the county were to license short-term rentals and they adhere to the guidelines that other areas have set up and they go through places like Airbnb and that, there would be Transit Room Tax, TRT, that's collected on those also. Is that correct?
Well, we certainly hope so.
So it could be done
we
either
had
way.
We had a meeting this
But why
morning,
would
as a
you
matter
not?
of fact, and we were trying to guesstimate about how many. And so we're pretty sure there's over 1,000 out there, and if they were paying, that would be obviously more assets for all of the organizations to benefit from.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you. Sorry, got to look at my list. Mr. Feely, Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Schrader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question on the 100,000 to RAC. I heard you say it was returned 3- to 4-fold to Clackamas County, but then I heard you also say it was distributed regionally. So I guess my question is that 100,000 spent on artists that reside in Clackamas County or not?
Yes, thank you for the clarifying question. We deliver $395,000 back to artists and arts organizations and teachers and school districts that are in Clackamas County.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, just curious, I'm a little bit confused. Has there been another publicly noticed budget meeting pursuant to state law for tourism? Or is this the first one?
Tourism does their budget through the Tourism Development Council, and our meetings are noticed, and the agendas are placed out in the public eye for at least a week in advance, and they're shared broadly. So they are noticed, and they are part of the legal process that we've used since our inception.
So it follows the state budgeting law?
Yes.
So this is the second budget committee meeting, is what you're really saying?
This is the first budget meeting with this particular board and this committee, but the Tourism Development Council has met a number of times and discussed the budget over the last 6 months.
Okay. Does Tourism and Cultural Affairs follow county procurement policies and hiring policies and all the protocols?
Absolutely.
Or are those separate? They are county?
Yes, as you might recall, we have a memorandum of understanding that lays out the different particulars about how the relationship works and how we report. One of the areas that we do have more work that we do now is through contracting and procurement, so yes.
Okay, so I'm looking here on page 13, and I see that we have budgeted for 18-19 and for 19-20 proposed, 15 FTE, and I see that those were filled, or projected year end to be 15. So you've hired in just the year, this last 3 years, 3 positions, or 1 year in the recent year? budget year, 3 positions. Is that correct? Because prior to that, it was, no, 4 positions, because prior to that, it was 11 positions were filled.
So Chair and Commissioner, we don't have any added positions this year at all. We have one position that was a technical services employee that was under TS, which we call it, and that person has been brought in as a full employee in tourism rather than in our technical services department. So that now shows up in ours instead of theirs. As well as I mentioned earlier that Travel Oregon has given us funds. Those are primarily pass-through funds, but they have also allowed us to hire individuals to run those programs, and those individuals were in the last year's budget, and this committee had conversation at that time about that.
Okay. So my other question is, with regards to the staff time that DTD is spending right now on the short-term rentals and all the other staff time related to that through county counsel's office and all the work we're doing, is there a working relationship in that? Or is there a means in which those hours are compensated for?
Well, the enforcement of the tourism tax falls to the county and not to tourism. We don't have a role to play in collections. That is actually in the finance department per ordinance and per the county commission. But we have participated. We do participate. We've been very active. I'm sure all my partners in the county staff are here today. And if you follow the Facebook post of the short-term rental thing that was held in this building last week, you would have saw that I was running around with a microphone on behalf of the organization to capture those comments. So yes, we've been deeply engaged in the conversations and partnering. So I think everybody feels very good about each other's participation in this work.
I'm just wondering if there's a means, maybe I'll look to the administrator for help. Is there a means in which the staff time we're spending doing that and the staff time of finance to collect the TRT, is that something that is billed to and paid for by Tourism and Cultural Affairs?
The 2% covers the enforcement or the administration of the tax, and that's per ordinance. We didn't design it. We don't get to change it. It's voted in by the citizens of this county in 1991. So that's as it has always been. But I think if I'm reading between the lines, you're asking, do we pay for county staff time that are involved with in doing this work? But it really is about county land use and violations that are out in the communities. It is not about taxation at this point at all. It's about how people are using their homes for either illegal or legal purposes. And that is a county enforcement and county land use and a county board consideration versus a tourism issue. And
to some degree, I don't disagree at all. However, last night's meeting, we had quite a few people there. We're talking literally about taxation, who had raised that, who had came out in force last night, and it was a pretty, and same thing occurred up at the mountain, the other one I attended. So there is the abnormality about this one is that we are spending a lot of staff time beyond the collection, the 2% that pays for the normal collection. We are spending a lot of time with that. I was just kind of wondering if there was a means to address that.
I think that you are going to be considering that as a board very shortly about how you want to address that so that maybe those same individuals are also paying for enforcement and other activities that might be necessary for short-term rental use. They're already out there in the community and it's already being done.
Right, right. So the other one I wanted to mention just for the sake of the budget committee, and that is that, and I've raised this before, we raised it yesterday, I'll just say it again, and that is I really believe that the way the TRT has been interpreted, is and the way it's written is not according to state law, is also congruent with that. But are also other TRTs around the state, and Coquille and Coos Bay and others who pay for museum, cultural heritage expenses, museums, aspects, and also even have, I believe in Coquille's TRT even has identified some unrestricted dollars dedicated towards other uses. And I have advocated for a long time, I know you've heard this before and heard it recently, even last week. I really think that just without any increase in the tax or the fee, that it might be a wise idea to, frankly, for the benefit of museums, heritage, culture, frankly, even arts, and the fair, that we look at getting, rewriting the TRT and putting it before the voters to get approval. I think that would really alleviate some of the financial burdens that they're all experiencing and add value to the people who visit the state of Oregon and Clackamas County.
I hear your question. The issue really is in state law. And in 2003, when the Transient Room Tax laws passed in the state, everyone was frozen in time in 2003. So if you had an ordinance or a TRT, that remains in stone, basically. And so in Clackamas County's situation, we froze at 98% for tourism and the fair. The fair gets a large chunk of the money already, and 2% for administration. Take the city of Wilsonville. City of Wilsonville froze with 60% that went to the general fund and 40% that went to tourism. So every place in the state is different. I'm not surprised everybody has something else. That's very true. And if you're after 2003 and you didn't have an ordinance or some other tax like that, then your tax, you could have as much as 30% of your take go to the general fund, but 70%, and it's still true in law today, 70% must go to tourism promotion and development. So that's, even if you go back and want to change it, you can't. They say you may not change it in state law. It says you may not change what's already happened. What you can do is you can pass a new one to add on to it. You can't delete or diminish the other one, but you can add a new tax that then you could get 30% of a general fund for a general fund purpose, but still 70% goes to tourism purposes. So it's only for future. You cannot change the past. And I did bring law with me if you'd like to look at that.
We do have a couple more questions. We are at the end of our time for this, so I'm going to ask the questioners and hopefully the respondees to be specific and to be as concise as possible, please. So we have Commissioner Schrader, Bernard, and you're done?
I'm done. It got
Schrader and
addressed.
Bernard, thank you.
Okay, so I do have some questions for RAC.
Martha, could you speak into the microphone?
I have some questions because you do serve 2 school districts. However, we have 10 school districts, and so only 2 out of the 10 are being served by the Right Brain Initiative.
Currently, unfortunately. And part of the reason for that is for a school to participate, they have to chip in $15 per student. That actually covers the time that an artist spends with their teacher, and that's currently prohibitive for some schools.
Okay. And also, I've been aware, I'm on the board of Lakewood, and I know that they have seen a reduction in funding from RAC. I think it's about $20,000, and I'm not sure I understand what the change has been in how you give grants. Could you, it has something to do with the fact that Portland has an arts tax, so that money is not used regionally, but is really funneled directly to Portland. Is that correct?
Yeah, to be brief and for the record, thank you for alerting me about this concern a couple months ago when you reached out. And we found that, in fact, Lakewood has not received a cut. Lakewood received an email that said we were going to reduce funding for some of the largest arts organizations in Portland as a result of how we were implementing the arts tax in that city. But Lakewood Theater, Bag and Baggage, and Broadway Rose were not impacted because they are not in the city of Portland. So I spoke with Andrew. His development officer misunderstood our communications and has since been satisfied that they're not receiving a reduction.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I needed to bring that back to the board.
Thank you,
Thank you
Commissioner.
for that. Because we do want to make sure it is a huge, as you know, we have a constricted budget this year. And that's a chunk of change out of our general fund. And I'm a big supporter of the arts. But I want to make sure that if we are going to be regional partners, the dollars are being, we put my mind at ease that the dollars are being distributed fairly regionally, because again, we're going to be facing conversations in the coming year of how we're going to actually rebuild our budget. Because right now, we can balance it this year because of the hard work of our budgeteers and our administrator, but it's not sustainable as it stands now. So I wanted folks to be aware of that because it's going to be a long-term sustainability issue. So wringing every dollar we can out of the dollars that we're trying to do regionally is going to be a high priority for us. So, but thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Bernard, and then we will end this particular conversation so that we can get on with our next director.
I just have one short question.
All right, thank you.
I wanted to say that, you mentioned that the $15. In other words, I'm not blaming you. The rich kids get the arts education, the poor kids don't. When we go to a children's levy, that's something to consider. It's a shame that, we can't provide that for all children because like you said, it's a value. The other thing is, you guys weren't here earlier, but we were talking to the planning department about, the discussion in the community about short-term rentals. And, we're really in a place now where we don't have a choice. Illegal short-term rentals are occurring. The truth is, we have to fund enforcement is going to be key. And also, the cost recovery part of it is the licensing fee that the county would charge. Whatever department does that, we would have to calculate what that fee is. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard.
Yeah, and
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I just would like to just take up Director Cowan's offer to get a copy of what you got there as far as that.
I have copies for all.
Great.
Of the,
Pass it out.
Might be a good idea to pass out to everyone then.
Well, I have the memo of understanding. Let's see. And I
Okay.
just want to add just really quick about the Regional Arts Alliance. I believe part of the issue is that it's regional, and I think it's more like the metro region. And so some of the schools that are outside of the metro, just like with transportation, they are not really part of that program because it's part of the Portland region. So I
And that's
believe
partly why we then fill in the gaps with the Clackamas County only school districts.
well, I must say, I find it just a bit disappointing to hear that like in the North Clackamas School District, I think 70% of the students are free and reduced lunch, and they're poverty and below level. And to think that, quite frankly, to think we're spending $100,000 a year, but some of those kids aren't getting the benefit of the Right Brain Initiative, really, really concerns me. As a resident of Clackamas County, that concerns me. So,
Thank you for that comment. And just to be clear, of that $100,000, $27,000 is going to the program.
well, of the
arts education
27,000, yeah.
program.
But I mean,
And-
we have such need in Clackamas County that I would hope that there are maybe other ways to help fund the schools and things like that, or other grants you could help them seek.
Yeah, we would
and,
love to partner with
you know,
you on
do
raising
that.
money for equity
yeah.
in that program throughout the county.
That arts, does that include music, by the way, besides?
Our program
Besides
does.
visual?
It doesn't pay for the music teacher down the hall. It pays for a musician or a dancer or visual
instruments.
artist to come in and work with the classroom teacher to teach a math concept or a history concept. et
There
cetera.
was a really good brochure about RAC 2 or 3 years ago that we had, maybe even for the last couple of years. If you had something like that, maybe you could send it electronically to our county staff and they could get it out to all of the budget committee members so that we'd all know just what's going on and how that's utilized.
Will
'Cause
do. We'll send you a digital
Good
packet.
program. We just want to make sure that it's hitting our kids as it should. So, thank you. Thank you. I thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Danielle.
I have a copy of the memorandum of understanding for the board in multiple copies, but I believe I have to step back and look in my briefcase a little more deeply for the legal language that I'm pretty sure I also copied, but.
Yeah, that was all I was after, was the legal
Okay,
language.
so if we could get those today or tomorrow, we'll be here.
If you emailed those to either Jennifer or I, we can make sure the whole committee gets
That
them.
would be terrific. Good. Thank you, Haley, for that. Yeah. thank you all very much for your presentation. Thanks for the work you're doing for Clackamas County.